Welcome back to Where Whites Walk. Lots to get our teeth into this week. Is there anything wrong with DCL? Should we be worried? And how good was it to see Barker absolutely lose it at the referee, showing some passion? And plus, do all the big teams, City in this case, get all the decisions their way? Welcome back to 21 minutes of
Absolutely.
Leeds United chat. We've, of course, got Sam back with us, fresh back from watching that City game. And we're also picking our February player of the month. And just looking at March's fixtures, where will our points come from to keep us safe? How are you doing, Sam?
Um, I,
That
I,
was a good
I, I,
performance, wasn't it?
yeah, yeah. I said a few weeks ago this batch of three games, we really needed to get 2 points from them, and we have. Um, Different ways you can look at it. You could say it's another of those nearly games where, we possibly deserved the point, maybe should have got a point, maybe could have been a couple of goals up. But, yeah, you're playing a top team. You're playing against very, very good players. And I said last week, I didn't want us to try and do what he tried to do against Arsenal otherwise. Just kept so he went for it, and it almost worked.
Yeah.
And I don't think there's not too many Leeds fans moaning about it. Even though there's a couple of things to moan about, the team gave 100%. They gave one of the best teams in Europe. Hell of a fight. Like a lot of the City players absolutely dead in their feet at the end of it.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Of course, I just beat Sunderland this week. It's all forgotten about, isn't it? Let's look at some social media takes from the game. James says, it's a great performance. Hate losing, but when we go down swinging, it doesn't hurt as bad. Lads showed a lot. Just need a bit more quality from the bench. Hard to compete against a team with that much quality, but we actually did. Yeah, and like you said,
100%.
what
I
they,
couldn't disagree with a word of that.
yeah, what they brought on from the bench was thousands or millions of pounds more than what
Yeah,
Leeds have got, isn't it? That's the main
yeah.
difference. Let's look at this one though. About we'll do that one in a minute. The booing. Phil says the Everton version of Calvert Lewin though was on show tonight. If he converts that early chance, Leeds will go on to win. Everton fans have seen that version over and over again. Leeds will easily now stay up. Yeah, are we a bit worried about Calvert Lewin just hitting a dry spell?
He's had a dry spell, but I think all strikers do. We need him to pick up again. But as I said before, if these guys could score with every chance and put in a perfect cross every time, they wouldn't be playing for us. That's just the sad reality. It'd be playing for Manchester City or Real Madrid or something. So we've got a difference is we've some good players with the heart and commitment you can't question, but we don't really have any world class players, and City have quite a few of them.
I mean,
And that's it. We had to be 100% to get anything out of that game, and we're maybe 95%, and and you just need to be perfect, and we weren't.
yeah. I mean, on the DCL thing though, I mean, in previous clubs, in particular at Everton, when he's gone on a dry spell, the spells have lasted a long time. He is without doubt a confident striker. As in when he is confident, he'll keep banging him in. But when he doubts himself and has that stress and anxiety, it can be many months before you see a goal.
Well, I don't think so. We had this with Bamford before, so Leeds fans are sort of used to having streaky strikers. I didn't follow his career closely enough at Everton. I have heard Everton fans say that. Last few games against these top teams, he's been living off scraps. Against weaker oppositions, you'll get better chances. If he's missing two or three in a game, then I think maybe we need to start to worry a little.
Okay. Let's look at some more takes, shall we? This one about the referee. So most of the first half was decent, but they pretty much gave up until the 88th minute in the second half. Not sure why they dropped off so much. We know they can play so much better. The ref was inconsistent and useless as always, and it's to that point I come to now. We saw Farker losing his lid with the referee at the end there.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, what we hear that's about the penalty not given, but the referee, did you think he favoured City on the marginal decisions, the
Yeah,
50-50s?
yeah.
Um,
Absolutely. And it's not just City, it's any of the so called top teams,
Cartel,
top
yes.
six. Yeah, yeah, the cartel, that's a good word for it. Um, and I don't necessarily think it's a deliberate thing. Um, I was listening to another podcast this morning. People are saying, well, whenever Sky have the game and you've got like somebody challenging for the title, these things get talked about endlessly. Whereas if it had been our game against Fulham a couple of weeks ago, would have been crickets. Um, I think the referees are under enormous pressure not to make a decision which maybe cost some team the title. But so when it comes to a team which maybe isn't as much of a box office draw, then you don't get to rub the green. And I also think sometimes refs are a bit perverse. They don't like to seem to be intimidated by a home crowd. So strangely, you might get more decisions away from home sometimes.
It's bizarre, isn't it? But there's such a poor standard of. I mean, what have you? How, I mean, we've commented before we come up, haven't we, about the championship before, and that the refs are so poor that it has actually impacted on people.
Yeah,
Teams missing out on playoffs and things like that. But here we've got VAR. We've got talented, trained individuals at Stockley Park looking at VAR decisions. We've got referees in constant communication with their lines referees, and yet Leeds seems to have been on the back foot of so many poor refereeing
yeah,
performances.
yeah. Well, that handball incident towards the end was a classic case where it should have gone to VAR, and that gives the referee a way out one way or the other. He's gone over, looked at it in slow motion. If something happens quickly, refs will get it wrong because Premier League matches are played at an incredible pace. But for the likes of that, and a decision like that could put us down if we go on a bad run of form. I think he should use VAR. The only difference I see in the refs between the Championship and the Premier League is they will blow more free kicks in the Championship, like so Willie Nanto and Dan James are getting lumps kicked out of them every week. Literally getting kicked around about the knees and stuff 4 or 5 times a game, and the refs just let it go. Whereas you'll get a bit more protected from violence in the Premier League most of the time, not all the time. I saw towards the end of the game, City at their tricks, a few stamps, fairly few tasty challenges of Vinnie Jones with Blouchat, and they get away with it.
One bit talking point from the game has been, of course, the booing of the
Yeah,
City players taking the refreshments. Imagine being so small-minded that you boo a player for taking 2 minutes to break his fast during Ramadan. Leeds United fans showing their true colours today. It was embarrassing. Yeah, what's your take on that?
okay. Well, I've spoken to a few people. I wasn't at the game, and I have to admit I didn't pick it up from the television. Some people are saying that they were booing the fact that Pep used the opportunity to have a team talk. Others were quite openly saying, well, why on earth should we do this for Muslims and what have you? My understanding of the thing is that Ramadan stops basically at the official stroke of sunset, whatever that happens to be, 5:54 or whatever it is in any particular place. Now these guys haven't eaten or drinking all day. They're playing top level sport. So if they don't have a break for fluids, there's a chance they're getting into dehydration and maybe more likely to be injured and so forth. and that is why they do it. But if I had to put the match back, say 15 minutes for kickoff, people would be complaining about that too. Um, there's a woman in the socials, and I won't name her, but she said she did challenge some of the people around her who were booing. So it was definitely going on. Some people may have been booing the impromptu team talk. I think it's a mixture of both. Also came across quite clearly in the television some Leeds fans singing Jimmy Savile's Barmy Army,
Yeah.
which is in pretty poor taste. So we can't complain about opposition fans coming out with a Jimmy Savile song, which happens in every single game we play, regardless who is it. We can't complain about that if our own fans are coming out with that nonsense.
Mm. I mean, it's not like this is the first ever time this has happened either. It happens every year when Ramadan hits, wherever it happens in the calendar year. We've had it. We've seen it at
Yeah,
World Cups before.
yeah,
We've seen it in summer months. This is not something which is new that we should be doing. And Leeds as a city, of course, as well, with has a Muslim community,
yeah.
as
And,
well as a Jewish
and,
community. And
and,
you'd expect. Well, I'd expect better, but maybe I'm living in a paradise.
and with Muslim supporters, and if Joel Mohammed Piero had managed to score an equaliser in the last minute, I dare say that the same people that were booing it would be cheering his goal. You've also people complaining about taking the knee, which players have a say in. If I remember right, earlier in the season, Dominic Calvert-Lewin didn't. So
Mm.
players have got their own personal decision. And I just think, the game stopped all the time. Players go down at the slightest touch and they're pretending to be hurt, and there's stoppages all over the show. And to make a big thing of this, I thought was just totally unnecessary.
Yeah.
But there is an element in football, and it's probably with every club. And I hate to use the term racist, but yeah, some of it has got that sort of overtone.
Yeah. Okay. Well, let's hope we don't have a repeat of that again, and people can, be a little more respectful. Thank you very much, Sam. Let's have a look at Leeds' fixtures, shall we? Then for the remainder of March, as we're into the new month now. Big game, of course, Tuesday against Sunderland. Norwich await in the FA Cup. If we can get by Norwich, then we are one game away from Wembley, of course, into the quarterfinals. That's exciting. Away at Palace and home against Brentford. So, leaving the cup game out of it, of course, how many points out of 9 do you think that the
Oh,
Super Leeds United will pick up here?
I always try to be a bit conservative with these because I'm absolutely hopeless at predictions. Always get it wrong. My brain says 5. My heart says 7.
Okay.
Like Sunderland's way form isn't magnificent. We tend to do well in the evening. Just
Yeah.
hope that game on Saturday didn't take too much out of them. But I think that'll be good for the morale of the players. They've gone toe to toe with one of the best teams in the world, and they were very unfortunate not to get something out of the game. If we play like that against any of these 4 teams, we'll beat them comfortably.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
as I said last week, there's an assumption that we just have to turn up and win these home games. It doesn't necessarily work that way. All those 3 clubs are all above us in the league, and they're all above us in the league for a reason. So none of those games are going to be easy.
And then just a word on the Daniel Farker derby this weekend against Norwich. I mean, they are in the Championship, I don't know if you followed them much, but they've got a brilliant manager now in Philip
Yeah.
Clement, who's turned the form around hugely.
Yes.
So they don't have any strikers, though. They've got injuries galore.
That's good to hear.
But yeah, they were heading down at the start of the season under Liam Manning, but yeah, new manager in place. Do you see them much of a threat, or this should be a home win, shouldn't it?
We at home, and at the pay, I think he will put out a reasonably strong team this time, because if we get a favourable draw in the 6th round, you're one game away from Wembley, and I think the other lads in the podcast are of an age where they can't remember Leeds United ever being in a final. So, even if we go there and lose, it's giving people a bit of hope, and football's all about hope. We showed you, well, Arsenal will hammer us if we play them, but even if we get City or Liverpool, we have a chance if we do it right. So I wouldn't take anything for granted. It'll be a big game for Norwich. They're going to want to progress. I don't think they're in any real danger of relegation. I don't think they're going to worry about another game. We should do it, but I take nothing for granted in football because you just don't know what's going to
happen. As we leave February aside, we're going to pick our February Player of the Month, Sam, if that's okay, though, first.
Okay.
Who would you go with?
That's a hard one. He hasn't played all the month. Like, Stack has been very good from his comeback from injury. And I think Struijk missed a few games, but he's just been Mr. Steady this last few games. He hasn't really done an awful lot wrong. And Darlow actually has played very well in the last 2 games as well. Hard to say. If I'm pushed, I will maybe say Struijk if I'm pushed. But it's a really hard one. No one has stood out. And the nice thing about Saturday's match is I don't think anybody had a bad game either. Some of the subs didn't really shine, but we only give them 15 minutes. There's not much they can do, really.
Yeah. Good shots. Right. Let us know in the comments who you would have chosen. And finally this week then, our A to Z continues, and we're up to letter R. Did well on Q last week. In the end, what can you think of? I mean, Don Revy, I'd imagine, goes into this conversation, does it?
Well, of lots. Lucas Radebe, that era, huge name. You have Joe Rodon, obviously, in the current squad, but and then Paul Rainey going back a bit. But Lucas Radebe, I think we'll give it to him. Isn't he a club ambassador now? So we'll give it to we'll give it to the chief.
Okay, Lucas Radebe therefore gets in Leeds' A to Z. What about the letter S? That's next week. So get your thinking caps on for that. 7 days to come up with a decent answer. Then, but good shout on Lucas Radebe. Right. Well, enjoy the game against Sunderland, of course, on Tuesday night at Under the Lights at Ellen Road, which is always a fantastic,
be a nice one. Yeah, should be good
fantastic atmosphere. We'll see you next week, Sam. Thank you, of course, all very much for watching as well. Drop us a subscribe if you haven't yet done so.
Next week we will have the debut of a former LS11 podcaster. That'll give people something to watch and listen for. Okay.
And your good self, Sam, of course.
Okay,
thanks.
Bye.
Catch you all next week.
Bye.